Hello, everybody. Again, this is Karen Bryla McNees, dietitian with the UK Health and Wellness Program, and I'm really excited to be here with you today to talk about what's called the MIND diet. So, the MIND diet is an acronym. It stands for Mediterranean Dash Intervention for Neurodegenerative Degenerative Delay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what some of those terms mean here in just a moment. But to give you a little bit of background on the MIND diet, it was first developed in 2015. So I always like to point this out to people that it's pretty new. A lot of the research is still in its infancy. And as it goes, a lot of times with nutrition, the headlines about this tend to outpace the research and what we actually know about it. So I like to, point out that these things often tend to get sensationalized when they're new and exciting. But we do want to be a little bit of, be prudent as we approach this. And I'm going to really focus on what we know about where the research actually stands today about MIND diet and give you the most evidence-based overview of our understanding of MIND diet to date. But the Mediterranean and DASH diets have been known or shown in the past to slow what we call cognitive decline. Okay, DASH diet is a acronym as well. It stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It's a diet that's often used to help lower blood pressure. And as many of you know, the Mediterranean diet is a diet that represents the traditional patterns of eating in that area of the world, such as Greece, southern Italy, Spain, areas such as that. So anyway, before 2015, we knew that Mediterranean DASH diets could slow cognitive decline. A cognitive decline, as Terry was kind of talking about in the introduction, talks about the physical structures of the brain that deteriorate with age. And again, that can be happening before we even see any symptoms. But once we see some symptoms, right, some of those symptoms of cognitive decline look like forgetfulness, a decreased ability to focus, and a decreased capacity for problem solving. So certainly these are things people are always concerned about and definitely want to try to minimize their risk of. So once it was known that Mediterranean DASH diets could slow cognitive decline, some researchers at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago decided that they wanted to try to combine elements of each of those diets to see if they could create a diet that would lower the risk of Alzheimer's disease. So they kind of upped the ante, right? Taking it from just looking at that general cognitive decline that we see with aging to see if they could really impact risk of Alzheimer's disease, okay, and to slow that progression. So that was their aim when they set out to do this. A couple of things again I want to say about the research that we know about MIND diet to date. Uh, in the research so far, they have looked at just what people eat already. They did not prescribe the MIND diet. The MIND diet was not an intervention. They just looked at what people were already eating. Okay, and so research like this shows what we say is association, not causation. So the research can say, hey, people that eat a certain way have a certain risk for cognitive decline or Alzheimer's disease, but we can't say that one thing is causing the other. That takes a different kind of research, more longitudinal interventional research that's really difficult to do in humans and with nutrition. They're working on doing that research. There is funding for that actually happening right now for the MIND diet, but we're just not there yet. But right now we know that these two things happen together and they're related, and that's exciting. And that's how most of this research, when you're talking about human nutrition, begins. Okay. I do want to point out though too, because people often ask, well, do they control for factors in this research that might explain some of the differences in risk? Okay, and they do. They usually control for genetic predisposition to Alzheimer's disease or cognitive decline. They control for age, gender, education level, calorie intake, physical activity, and also participation in cognitive stimulating activities. So all of this that we're going to talk about today is based on the fact that they've already controlled for all of these factors, and that does not explain some of these differences in risk that we see from the MIND diet. So that's also very exciting and does lend a little bit more credibility to what we can say about the MIND diet. So again, just another, I just want to share a few more pieces here about what the research kind of looked at and how they came to some conclusions about, why the mind diet is beneficial and how beneficial it is. So, like I said, they look at what people eat, right, already, and they score their diet based on what the My Diet criteria are. And we're going to look at that in a few moments. But they basically broke the scores up into thirds. So you have a bottom third scoring of folks, you have a middle third, and you have the high scoring folks. So there were three groups of scores. That highest group of scores was called rigorous adherence. So people who already were practicing a lot of the principles of the mind diet. So that rigorous adherence, these folks had a 53% lower risk for Alzheimer's disease. Okay. The really exciting thing about mind diet, though, is that the moderate adherence group, that middle third of scorers, still had a pretty significant lowering of their risk for Alzheimer's disease by 35%. So this is really exciting. And I think that's where a lot of the buzz came about mind diet. What we know about mind diet, but also Mediterranean and DASH diet, is that rigorous adherence to any three of those diets, lowers your risk of Alzheimer's disease. But my diet is the only one where moderate adherence is shown to lower your risk for Alzheimer's disease. So this is really, again, exciting because from a practical perspective, right, of people following a diet, this gives a little bit more leeway, but still the, hope that people can benefit from it, even if they're not following it very strictly. We do know that the longer you follow the mind diet, the better your results will be. And we also know that the top third of scorers for the mind diet basically were cognitively equivalent to being 7.5 years younger. So that's nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty significant. And we're also seeing in some more emerging research that there might be other possible benefits to the mind diet. Again, it started as something to look at Alzheimer's disease, but we're also seeing there may be some benefits for overall heart health, diabetes risk, things like that. Okay, so to get a little bit more into exactly what is going on with these diets, okay, I just like to show this as an overview of what the DASH, Mediterranean, and MIND diets generally emphasize or minimize. And you can see in the green boxes there that those are the things that each of these diets emphasizes, and the red boxes is what these diets minimize. And I find this interesting because I think that there's a lot of commonalities among the three, and you can see why the My Diet researchers decided that DASH and Mediterranean diets would be two good things to try to merge to create this mind diet, because there's already a lot of similarities. A lot of these things, right? There's a lot of plant-based foods here. There's a lot of whole foods. There's a lot of foods that have minimal saturated fat, less red meat, less added sugar, less processing. So these diets already have all of those things in common. Okay, but let's look at my diet a little bit more in depth. Okay, I'm going to show you here what my diet looks like in a week. And then we'll get a little bit more into the details of each of these categories of foods. Okay. So the great thing about my diet, again, is when they do this scoring and they look at how well people are adhering to my diet principles, they're looking at it in the context of a week. And that's how the research and the diet were developed. So it's not like a day-to-day diet, even where again, you have to have that, checking off these check boxes every day. You just have to average this out over the course of a week. And again, sounds really appealing and flexible and accessible to people. So the first thing there is whole grains. My diet suggests 3 servings a day because that fiber does help to fuel a productive brain. Your body and your brain do like good carbs. We also have berries, which have flavonols that can slow brain decline. We have beans, which again are high fiber, plant-based source of protein. We have leafy greens, okay, and you want 6 of these a week. So again, eat less than 1 serving a day of leafy greens, right? Full of antioxidants and carotenoids that can protect your brain. Poultry, 2 servings a week. These are full of B vitamins, and they're also low-fat protein, so that's why they help with cognitive decline. 5 servings of nuts a week. Okay, these are rich in vitamin E. Fats are by nature high in vitamin E, and these are heart healthy fats, so also shown to lower risk of Alzheimer's. Other vegetables, so 7 servings a week, right? So that's one extra in addition to the leafy vegetables almost once a week, just one other vegetable once a day. And these are packed obviously with all kinds of antioxidants and micronutrients that enhance our health. Fatty fish, one serving a week. Okay. This is rich in brain cell fortifying omega-3 fatty acids. And then everybody's favorite, the wine. So 7 servings a week, so one serving a day, which is actually, again, officially part of the Mind diet. But the important thing to remember here is that, it's one serving and one serving is 5 ounces. It's not, multiple glasses or a huge glass, but it is a little wine every day. Um, the one thing I will say about the wine though too is that in all seriousness, if you are not already somebody that drinks wine, this is not a suggestion to start drinking wine. And I always am very careful to point that out that most people in the field would tell you that, if you already drink it, great, you can feel good that maybe it's helping you a little bit in this way. But if you do not already drink, do not start drinking just because of this. And then the foods you want to keep to a minimum: red meat 4 times a week or less, fast food, fried food, cheeses. I find this to be one of the strictest criteria, especially with the cheese. I find that to be a pretty strict one. And so I, understand if you feel that way too. Butter and margarine, fewer than 7 tablespoons a week. So that's still almost a tablespoon a day of butter. And pastries or sweets less than 5 times a week. So hopefully you can see from this that this is very flexible, okay, and very doable for a lot of people. And maybe several of these recommendations are things that you're doing already. So just to give you a little bit more specifics about each of these guidelines for the Mind diet, again, going back to the whole grains, not all carbohydrates are created equal. So the focus here are the whole grain, high fiber carbs, such as whole wheat products, quinoa, brown rice, things like that. Berries. I mean, most people love berries. We're about to hit berry season, so that's exciting. But frozen berries count as well. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, whatever it is that you like. Beans, okay, and this also includes lentils, okay, so beans and lentils of any kind. I would say the one exception there is probably refried beans with lard. That's probably not included in this category of beans, but beans or lentils prepared in a sensible way. Then we have leafy greens. Lots of options here. Romaine lettuce counts. That's something a lot of people already eat. Spinach, arugula, kale, and these other types of greens. Poultry, chicken or turkey, preferably the white meat with no skin, and again, prepared in a sensible way. And it's unclear to me if this includes pork tenderloin. And looking through all the research, I am just not sure because people often ask this question about Mind diet. So I can't say for sure. This was a tough one to pin down. And on that note, I'll also mention that there is still a lot of conflicting evidence out there about or guidance about Mind diet. I tried to pull as much as I could from the original research in giving you this information, but if you get out there and look online, you'll see kind of some discrepancies here and there about what's included in some of these groups or not. Like I said, pork tenderloin is just one of those examples that I'm just not sure of. Um, and then finally, nuts. And really any kind of nut. I mean, and all of these nuts count as a healthy nut. So whatever it is that you like here, you can feel free to enjoy. Okay, let's see. And then finally, our other vegetables. This is not even an exhaustive list, but a good, representation of a lot of the other kinds of vegetables aside from leafy greens that people may eat. Fatty fish prepared without frying. There's some examples: salmon, tuna, probably being the most popular. And again, either red or white wine has been shown to have benefits with Mind diet. And again, it is a 5 ounce glass a day, no more than that. That is the recommendation. Okay. And I do want to point out that I know that as you're seeing some of these slides and this information, you're probably wondering, can we get that? And I will absolutely be sure that I get this information to the hosts today so that they can share it with you after the presentation, and you'll be able to have access to all of this information. But I just wanted to also share this. It's a sample meal plan of what the Mind diet would look like in a week. Okay. And as you can see from this, it's Not terribly complicated. It uses pretty simple preparation methods. A lot of the foods here, and as we saw on the slides previously, they're foods a lot of us already probably eat and enjoy. And they're foods that are very accessible that you can buy anywhere, no matter where you shop. You could find them at Kroger, at Walmart, at Aldi, wherever it is you shop. You could find these foods. Okay. All right. So the mind diet in practice, I just want to, again, I've already kind of made these points, but I want to make them again, right? The beauty of my diet is that, again, you don't have to follow it perfectly to see results. And as a dietitian, trust me, I know people are always very concerned about, following a diet perfectly, right? That's always seems to be what's expected of traditional diets. But with the my diet, that is not the case. We saw that moderate adherence still gives you significant reduction in your risk for Alzheimer's disease. I'm always also concerned as a dietitian about this being something sustainable for people. Is this something that people can do long term and be, happy and satisfied with? And I think the answer to that for most people with my diet is yes, it can be. And I love that, right? And remember, the other thing we saw about my diet is that the longer people do it, the better the results. So yes, we want my diet to be sustainable. And I do think that it is for most people. As we saw, my diet emphasizes nutrient dense whole foods prepared at home. And as a dietitian, this is something I always recommend anyway, right? No matter what people are trying to do with their health or their weight, always we want more nutrient dense whole foods eat it, prepared at home. And I also think from that perspective, my diet can be economical as well. If you're spending less money eating away from home, you're eating fewer packaged or processed foods, that oftentimes can actually end up saving you money too. And then finally, again, as a dietitian, I love that there is such a large emphasis on what to eat. Because again, so many, diets and, guidance that we read about nutrition is about what not to eat, right? It's scaring us into, never eat this. This is, bad, right? And I would rather focus on what to eat. That's much more empowering for people, much more positive, and just healthier psychologically. So I love that about the mind diet as well. And when you're focusing on what to eat, the things that are trying to eat less of naturally kind of get pushed out of your diet and pushed off the plate as well. So those things just kind of tend to happen a little more naturally. Okay, and then finally, I like to, again, give people some ideas about simple steps they can take towards starting with the mind diet. Again, you may have already seen that, well, I do eat a lot of those things already, and maybe you're on the right track. Maybe you're feeling like, my diet is a little bit, I'm a little bit, removed from that. How do I get started? So here's some ways. Switching out your grains for whole grains. If you're eating white pasta, do whole wheat pasta, for example. Switching out beef for poultry, okay? Chicken and turkey instead of beef. Eating salads with your meals to get those leafy greens. Snacking on nuts if you like something salty and crunchy instead of chips. Using berries as a natural sweetener. And again, to mention that cheese thing, right? If you're really trying to, again, watch the cheese, use a sharper cheese. You get more flavor with a smaller amount. So that tends to be a good strategy for people. Using something like hummus, which is bean based, or avocado, which is that heart healthy fat, on sandwiches instead of mayonnaise or cheese. And maybe trying to have a meatless dinner once a week to be sure you get those beans or lentils in as well. All right, and then there's some resources here. Again, you'll have this information so you can explore on your own. But this Mind Diet Meals is an excellent website with information about the Mind Diet and recipes. And then here's some books that you can also buy on Amazon as well.